sometimes we have expectations on our spouse to be a particular thing. And when they're not that thing, like for real, we get frazzled, you know what I'm saying? And that's because, like for real, you are depending on one person to meet your every need. And, yeah, thank you, God. Sometimes you are depending on your spouse to meet a need that only God can fill. Sometimes you are depending on your spouse to meet a need that only your father was supposed to meet. Sometimes you are depending on your spouse to meet a need that only your mom was supposed to meet, right? Now, your spouse can only meet the needs that a spouse can meet. Let me say that first and foremost. So sometimes we can tend to lose some of the expectations that we have. And I know for one thing, Lau, let me just deal with the husbands real quick. And wives, this may be a little bit of a lemon squeeze tonight, but I promise you it's going to help us grow in some way, shape, or form. Ladies, our discussion this morning dealt around disrespect. Now, we already know that I can hear some wives saying now that he's probably getting disrespected because I'm not getting the love that I need. All right, so let me just dispel that part of it, right? We already know that a woman needs love, and if she doesn't get it, she'll probably react disrespectfully. If a husband is disrespected and he doesn't get the respect that he needs, he'll probably react unlovingly. So we know the crazy cycle and how all of that works. Let's take that off the table real quick. What happens when your wife's love tank is on full? You are loving her by connecting with her however she wants to be loved, and you're still getting disrespect in certain areas. And ladies, what we fail to realize is that just like some men who have problems connecting with you emotionally, and we have to learn that, right? There are some ladies or some women who have not grown up in a home with their father long enough for them to learn what it is to communicate with a man. And so you've never had anybody teach you how to do that. And now you're in this lifelong commitment where you're having to, and sometimes you can roll the eyes, you know what I'm saying? The nonverbal communication, this, you know what I'm saying? The this sometimes. We've very rarely, I should say very rarely, all the time, let me just say, we view that as disrespectful. And that's just one of the things. And there are a number of different things in the tone in which you say things, the way that you say things, right? Because it's not really what you say. Sometimes you're telling the truth. But even in telling the truth, we need to tell the truth with a certain level of love and respect. Understood? And so I'm saying that this is where vulnerability comes into play. Now, I know some of you are very familiar with the definition of vulnerability to be susceptible to personal, physical, or emotional attack, right? And that's how most men view it. But that's not the fullness of what vulnerability is. The fullness of what vulnerability is to be able to show who you are authentically and still have your manhood intact. That is the fullness of vulnerability. And what I realize in some marriages, and this is let me just put the disclaimer, I'm not being chauvinistic or I'm not beating up on the women today, because there are going to be some days where I'm dealing with the men too, right? But I'm just saying that I'm noticing that there are a lot of men suffering in silence because we've been brought up with this mindset that you roll with the punches, right? Or don't whine, you don't complain, you just make the adjustments and keep moving forward. Was reading this book one time, and this woman was talking to her husband, all kinds of crazy, right? Just because my man was like 6'5", 298 pounds and like 3% body weight. In other words, my man was a straight brick wall. And when they went to their counseling session, she was telling the therapist, like, for real, look at him. He's 6'5", 298 pounds. But just because he's 6'5" and 298 pounds doesn't mean that he doesn't have feelings. He has feelings. We're all human beings. We all have feelings. And I'm not saying that we get emotional for everything, or we shouldn't get emotional for everything, but emotions have their place, right? And we need to know how to communicate with one another. And sometimes we're disrespectful to our husbands, and this is not something that we want. This is something that we need. And because we've been brought up the way that we've been brought up, now remember, we want phenomenal marriage, but we will never be able to have a phenomenal marriage if we're not giving our wives the love that they need, right? And the respect that our husbands need. And sometimes you can say, okay, I'm going to roll with the punches, but it'll only be a matter of time before that pressure builds up and then that pipe bursts. And then what you're going to do then? So men, we need to be able to be in a position where we're vulnerable, and that is show who we are authentically, right? Without I'm going to say that one more time, without losing our manhood. You need to be able to be in a position where you tell your wife in love, this hurts, what you're saying, it's disrespectful, and I would like it very much if you would stop. Right? Now, ladies, we have a decision to make. We can do one or two things. Come out the bag and be defensive, but you know that's one of the 4 no-nos that bring you to, like for real, bring you down a bad road, right? Defensiveness, criticism, contempt. You feel me? Stonewalling, that defensiveness. We got a decision to make. We can be defensive, or we can say, I'm sorry. I'll try my best to make some adjustments, or I will make some adjustments, right? And then the marriage can move forward so much smoother, right? Men, same thing. If your wife comes to you with a concern, don't get defensive, right? Because if it's especially dealing with her feelings, it's her feelings. We can't tell them how to feel, right? Same way wives, if our husbands are being disrespected, they need to be able to be in a safe space to tell you, I feel disrespected. Because you don't want him not to connect with you emotionally on one hand, and then on the other hand, say, man up. That don't work. So let me say this to you, men, you have to put yourself in a vulnerable position where you show yourself authentically and you're able to communicate what you're feeling without feeling that you're losing your manhood. If you're feeling disrespected, you need to be able to be in a position to say, it hurts, it's disrespectful, and I would like it very much if you would stop, right? And I'm saying, say it in love. Now, I know sometimes that these are difficult conversations to have, but which one would you have? The difficult conversation or continuing to suffer in silence, right? Now, you know what happens. You let that pressure build up. And let me put the disclaimer. I'm not condoning cheating or having any vices in any way, shape, or form. But that's what happens with us. You let the pressure build up. You don't say nothing about it. You cry, or you suffer in silence, and then it manifests itself through porn or addictions or working long hours or whatever it is that your vice ends up becoming. So I'm going to say it again, guys. Communication, everything. Love and respect, everything. And men, learn how to be vulnerable. Y'all know y'all been taking the assessment. You know that there's a natural side and an adaptive side. And when you suffer in silence, what you're doing is you're adapting. And when you adapt, you can only do that for so long before you become stressed out and ineffective. And when that happens, only God knows where it goes from there, right? So y'all know what I always say, guys, for real, from shaky to good, from good to great. Ultimately, what we want is phenomenal. But phenomenal don't just happen. It takes work, right? Specifically on working on being respectful, ladies, and men, loving them like they need to be loved. Y'all know, let's make the rest of our marriage the best of our marriage. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Quest, man, professional marriage and life coach. Listen, one of the things that we've always tried to do here, or one of the major themes here at the Greenhouse, right, or in the work that I do, is to concentrate on love, lifestyle, and legacy, right? And for the purposes of lifestyle, we wanted to create merch that is consistent with our ideas and beliefs as it relates to marriage. So listen, guys, you can see I got on the Tribe Called Marriage, raglan shirt, Tribe Called Marriage hat, and we have that and tons more merch in the shop. Do me a favor, if you like what we're doing and you like the merch, do me a favor, stop by, get some for you and your wife, and support the movement. You feel me? Because if you're not working on your marriage, my friends, then what are you doing? Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Quest. Peace.